least in February. But that hating isn't necessary. You being petty because you see me rising, becoming legendary. And you talking down like you very scary. Come on, dude.
Monday Night Raw, August the 23rd, 2021. Welcome to 3 Count Commentary. So, we got to talk about this show, and it was actually the better Raw of the last several months. Legitimately, there was some weird stuff going on. We're going to talk about that weird stuff. So, the opening promo was essentially Lashley saying that, Lashley and MVP talking about how they did Goldberg dirty, and didn't know his son was going to be involved, and that he did his son just like he would do anybody else. And then Damian Priest came out. Damian Priest, called Lashley a bully and said that, hey, you're not going to attack me from behind. I'm not attacking you from behind. And I'm not half your size. So what up, though? You going to fight me or not? And Lashley was like, no. And he was like, well, if you don't take this challenge, you're a coward. And so Lashley, punched him. And then they brawled a little bit. He got bumped outside the ring, and then he went to go change because they were going to have the match. Absolute disqualification bait, because this match wasn't really going to happen. So, of course, Lashley, Priest, disqualification because of Sheamus. Then they had Sheamus and Lashley versus McIntyre and Priest. Lashley abandons Sheamus, and Drew McIntyre wins the match. Afterwards, Sheamus is on a rampage. Oi, what you doing, man? What you doing, man? You're supposed to be my partner. You're supposed to be my partner. You're supposed to be my friend. And Lashley said that he's not, they're not friends and they're not in business. But if he wants to be in business, he needs to stay right where he is, or he needs to get the hell out of there. Oi, what are you going to do then? What are you going to do then, oi? What are you going to do, huh? You going to do something to me? You going to do something? You see me little hat? You see me little jacket? And they're going to fight next week. Sheamus and Bobby Lashley are going to fight next week. On the other side, Priest and Drew McIntyre are going out for beers. So they probably half drunk right now. Hopefully Drew McIntyre is wearing a shirt. And so this is interesting because they didn't go into a next feud for Bobby. Instead, they kind of teased Damian Priest as an opponent. And they didn't give it away. They showed that Damian Priest could get the crowd reaction, that he could show some intensity, and he could bump Lashley a little bit. He's a babyface of size, so he can, he can do his thing. He's freshly minted United States champion too, so he has some real momentum. So I like this plan. But it looks like the match at Extreme Rules will probably be multi-man. It'll probably be like a fatal 4-way or something. Lashley, Sheamus, McIntyre, and Priest. If we can only, and in thinking about who could be the next opponent, obviously it's going to be Goldberg in Saudi Arabia. Whenever Saudi Arabian show is, expect to be Lashley and Goldberg. But Extreme Rules, you can do a fatal 4-way. You can do a fatal 4-way of some kind. I'm not thrilled by the whole give Drew another title shot idea because he had so many this year. But Sheamus hasn't been in the title picture and Priest hasn't been in the title picture. So that's fine. Again, of course, you should be doing something. If Priest is going to be tied up with the WWE champion, you should be doing something and preparing an opponent for him and his United States title. And I didn't see much of that on this show, unless Cross is the guy, but we'll get to Cross in a second. So the problem with Lashley is the problem with giants in general. He's so big, and you've built him up to be such a badass that you can't have a guy like Ricochet, not just because he's a job guy now, but because he's small. You can't have too many smaller guys really go after him. So who's a credible opponent for Bobby Lashley? Who's a babyface with some momentum that's a credible opponent? You only got two, Priest and McIntyre. And apparently they're both going to be in a fatal 4-way match against Lashley. So they needed some fresh blood on Raw because they haven't done a good job with baby faces on Raw. It's really bad. It's really sad too. It's really bad, really sad. All right, let's talk about Doudrop. So Doudrop says she likes her name and that she made a mistake, getting involved with Eva Marie. But she's going to Doudrop Eva Marie if she ever comes across her again. This lets Eva Marie to ram her with a crate, and then smash her head against the crate a bunch of times. this is going to set up their match for next week, which I think is far too soon. I mean, why not say that, because of the nature of this attack, she needs to take a week off. She's not going to be medically cleared. And you let Eva Marie cut a promo about how, Doudrop is, it's not nothing without her because she's not there and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's how, wrestling used to be booked. You attack a guy, if you beat him bad enough, he doesn't show back up the next week. So then you get a chance to go out there and cut the promo and say, oh, look at him. I'll put him in the hospital. He's not medically cleared. He's stupid. He's weak, yada, yada, yada. And then you get the heat. And then the next week, the person makes the big return. The heel flees because the big return happens. That's 2 weeks of material right there. And then on the third week, maybe you have the match. And you tease the match. You have the match or something like that. And maybe you ended in disqualification. You ended the count out or it ends clean. However it will go. But it's 3 weeks out. Like they jumped the gun on so many feuds this week that they're just going to say, oh, we started this feud this week, so it's obviously they're fighting next week, right? It's like, they don't have to, though. A lot of people are pissed because Doudrop is keeping her name. They're keeping the name Doudrop. People, we're going to talk about this a lot when it comes to Karrion Kross, and he's the next subject anyway. But WWE loves to fuck with people, especially the performers. And it seems to be that the more they like you, the more that they fuck with you. And they see whether you snap and break or did you crumble under the pressure. They see it's a test of your mind state. They put people in a hole and then make them work their way out of it. And some people will say that's counterintuitive. Like, why would you put people in a position where they can't succeed, or it makes it more difficult for them to succeed? And it's not my favorite thing in the world, but I understand why. Because this is a business where people are picking who's at the top and who's not. In football, you're not going to put your best quarterback on the bench just to prove a point, even though you might. If they have a bad attitude, he might be your best quarterback and you may say, you're an asshole, go sit on the bench for 3 games until you get your mind right. That kind of stuff will still happen. But there's all sorts of mental tasks that goes with wrestling that you have to prove yourself to, to the audience, to the office, that you can do certain things, that you can put up with certain things, that you can have range as a character and as a personality. Otherwise, you're going to have a short run. Like if you come in and you beat everybody, what's the Bruce Pritchard? How about you give me the belt? And I beat everybody. Okay, if you do that, you're not going to be around for very long because people don't get bored with you. If all you do is win, everybody wins all the time, then they're going to get tired of you. But if they put you in a situation that you have to work your way out of, fans have the opportunity to take time to invest in what you're doing, one way or another. I don't think the Doudrop name is going to be there forever. Eventually, she's going to drop the Doudrop name. They're already showing that, okay, she's willing to accept being Doudrop. She's willing to accept being behind Eva Marie, even though she's a better worker than Eva Marie. She was willing to get slapped by Eva Marie, be embarrassed by Eva Marie, and she still went out there and worked and did her thing, having a positive attitude. So you give her a little bit more. You break her away from Eva Marie. Now she's on her own. Now she's got to shine on her own. And I would not be surprised if she really impresses people on her own, that all of a sudden Doudrop will disappear and that name will go away and they'll come up with another name. And it's probably just that's just kind of how things are. Like, sometimes, like I said, characters are remarkably consistent. Sometimes they change the characterization, they change the name and stuff like that. Once you work your way out of it, like Lana had to work her way out of being the ravishing Russian. Like it's Kofi Kingston had to work his way out of being the Jamaican. Like these things are very limiting. The name Doudrop is very limiting. You have to work your way out of it. You have to learn. You have to get people used to it. You have to get used to it. Like, what does Bruce Pritchard call it? Like putting on a new pair of pants. You have to break it in. And then you can, once you feel comfortable in it, and the people are getting comfortable in it. Like, people hated the name the Viking Raiders. People hate new names, new name changes. Cesaro. People hate that stuff. And then over time they get used to it, and once they're used to it, it doesn't matter anymore. It's not that big of a deal, So they're trying to get people used to Dewdrop, and then it'll be like a big deal when they drop it. It'll be character development now that she's was able to liberate herself completely from Eva Marie. So I don't think that. Do I think there's going to be a Dewdrop in the main event of WrestleMania? No. I think if she ever gets that far, they'll definitely end up changing her name. Absolutely. But I think they're hot-shotting this whole thing with her and Eva Marie. It's too soon. They should have did a thing where she drops Eva Marie and she can't. Well, Eva Marie dropped her, or has a new heavy, which I think is a better idea. Is that you bring up somebody else to be with Eva Marie? That if you don't want to be my student, I'll just pick someone else. And she just reaches in the bag and pulls out someone else, and that person is going to feud with Dewdrop for a little while, and just use Eva Marie mostly as a mouthpiece, similar to like a Bobby the Brain Heenan or something like that, where Dewdrop has to go through someone else in order to get her hands on Eva Marie. And I think that's the thing about somebody who can't work like Eva Marie. Like, I'm a huge fan of Eva Marie, but I know that she can't work. I'm not stupid, right? So what you do is you prolong it as long as possible. You push it back. You do injury angles. You throw other people in the way. Whatever it takes. If the person that that the babyface is trying to get a hold of is not a physical threat, they shouldn't be able to get to him so easily. Put other things in the way. Hopefully they were smart enough to do that. But probably not, because they're booking Eva Marie versus Dewdrop next week. So whatever. Speaking of fucking with people, Karrion Kross comes out in a helmet and in suspenders, the cross suspenders. Oh boy. And the internet absolutely melted down because Karrion Kross was wearing a helmet. He wore a helmet, and now they're like, no, he looks stupid. All right. I see what personally, I understand where they're going with it. I understand the motif. I understand the characterization that they're going with. Do I agree with it? I think it's a little cartoonish, but this is the wrestling business, man. Demolition wore masks. They had face paint. They had studs. Shawn Michaels wore chaps. The fucking Road Warriors were like, didn't they wear dog collars at one point? They wore road spikes. You've had several different people wrestle as Lord Humongous. You have all kind of guys in Jason masks. You've had, the Canes and the Undertakers. You've had all this stuff. All Karrion Kross did was put on a helmet, dog. That's all he did was put on a helmet, like a gladiator's helmet. Now, do I think the helmet is permanent? I don't think it's permanent. I don't think a lot of these things are permanent. I think that if they can sell them, then it might be. If they can get it to the point where he's a heel, nobody's really going to buy much of his merchandise. But if they can get to a point where people get used to it, it's fine. He could actually double it as a weapon. Let's say he gets in trouble against somebody like a Priest or a Keith Lee or something like that, and he decides to use his helmet as a weapon, then, it's over. It's something that could be useful. As far as how it looks, I just think that most of us, people who are listening to this, you're not 12 anymore. Like, I couldn't imagine being like my dad. And then my dad, was, what was he, 30 something when I was born? So when I was watching wrestling in like 1993, or 1990 or something like that, and you see like the big boss man, this guy coming out there in like a prison uniform, he's got a nightstick. You're probably thinking that looks silly. It's a Mountie. He's got a shock stick. It's weird. Like, wrestling is weird shit, man. People get so up in arms about this kind of stuff. Like, these things are small. Like, these things are little. Just him wearing a helmet shouldn't flip people out so much. Scarlett not being there shouldn't upset people that much. Plus, they said I think someone said that Scarlett is not medically cleared yet. I don't know what's going on with her. But there's a lot of women that are, quote unquote, not medically cleared. If Mia Yim is not there, Scarlett is not there, Asuka is not there. There's some other. Where's Mandy Rose? Dana Brooke? There's a lot of women missing. So something is telling me that there's something going on. Maybe they all went to a party or something like that, and something happened. Sasha Banks, all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, you just started having a bunch of women who are not medically cleared, and you can excuse some of them because Mia Yim, was helping to take care of Keith. That's a different thing. But you have all these people who are not medically cleared. You have to ask questions about that. Like, there's a lot of people who've been missing for a long time, and they didn't get released. Like, Mandy Rose was on NXT twice, and then she disappeared. Something is up. What happened to Dana Brooke? She's been gone for a long time. Asuka, there were some false reports about her, and now Scarlett is missing. So you have to ask the question, like, what's going on? What's happening? But until we figure it out, I'm not tripping on Scarlett because Scarlett wasn't the whole gimmick. Scarlett wasn't the gimmick at all. Now, what they're going with Karrion Kross is obviously they're going with the Gladiator, which is a warrior theme, which fits his character. That doesn't mean that it has to change. If Scarlett comes back, she's just going to still be in the same position. But the bottom line is, Karrion Kross needs to be more than an entrance. And I know a lot of people get really tied up in that whole entrance thing. You have to be able to be more than an entrance. Like, cool, your entrance is nice. I know, so it's okay. But what about the bell-to-bell stuff? His bell-to-bell work has not changed. He's still intimidating. He's still very, very aggressive. His facial expressions, like a snarling dog, is still there. Everything is good once he takes the helmet off. He didn't have to wrestle with the helmet on. So I figure it's just entrance gear. People have weird entrance gear. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not tripping. Now, I'm not thrilled about him wrestling in the suspenders, though. Like, I think he should take the helmet off, clip those off. Take the helmet off, clip those off, and then we good. But, you have to do things in order to stand out in the wrestling business, man. These people keep thinking that it's 19. Like, people think that when I saw folks, they're like, it's not the 80s anymore. It's not the 90s anymore. You can't do those gimmicks. Like, what are you talking about? Like, do you literally not see that one of the most over things on Raw is Matt Riddle being an idiot? He doesn't talk like that in real life. He doesn't act like that in real life. That's a gimmick. That's something they put on him because we need to see your range, pal. Show us some personality. And they say, oh, yeah, go out there and be an idiot. And then he's successfully doing it. Don't be surprised if that starts to peter out a little bit over time. And he becomes more of that, what Miro was pitching was to be more of a Kurt Angle, where he's a wrestling machine. But he's also kind of a ditz, too. And I can see them going that way with Riddle. I can see, they did this whole thing with Cross and his helmet because they want to see something. Maybe it's his idea. Who knows? I'm not ever going to be against it being his idea, because I don't hate it. I don't love it, though. I just think that it's entrance gear. It comes off, just because. So everybody who's like flipping out, I'm like, I thought he was going to wrestle in it. That would have been weird. Like when they had, what was that? Retribution. I think they wrestled in those masks. So they didn't take the masks off, So that's a completely different thing. Like Slapjack was really wrestling in his mask. Like these guys are not. Cross ain't doing that. Cross taking that shit off. So it's a completely different ball game. It also doesn't look as cheap as the Farouk joint. The Farouk joint looked really bad because it was just like a silver thing on his head. And then he was like, it was so bad. It was so bad. And then because he's Ron Simmons, he didn't buy into it, play along with it or anything. And that's really what they're looking for. They're really looking for, hey, we're going to give this guy a stupid ass gimmick. Get in there and work it. And then the guy pretty much gives up and is like, oh man, I have to do this. And then they be like, okay, well, he's not going to make it because he just wants to be the champion. He wants to be the guy, or he thinks he has a personality, but he can't project it on screen or on TV or something like that. Now, I prefer him to wear a helmet, carrying cross meaning, than do some of the other silly shit that I've seen people do. I would much rather him wear a helmet than to be some comedy guy or something like that. I would much rather him wear a helmet because the helmet comes off, like I said, or the helmet can be used as a weapon. So I can say that pretty much within the next couple of weeks, we'll probably see him hit somebody in the head with the helmet, headbutt them or something with the helmet, and it'll be useful. Now I can see him winning the U.S. title by headbutting or hitting Damian Priest in the head with the helmet or something like that in order to get the win. That'll be fine. It's a good way to protect Damian Priest. So I'm okay with it. Ricochet takes the L. I'm not gonna pretend that I care about Ricochet. That's just what happens when you don't have a character, you don't have a person. I bet he would wear a helmet if it meant he would win and get on TV. I bet Ricochet wish he had a helmet. or something. Remember, there was some years ago actually, where there was a whole thing about Neville, and they said he was gonna have a Mighty Mouse gimmick, and all they really did was give him a cape. Like that was somehow meant a Mighty Mouse gimmick. It's like I don't even know what that meant, but I remember seeing that online. Was like, I can't believe people believe this shit. He wearing a cape. That was it, and it was playing into the whole thing about him being, what was it, the King of Flight or something like that. That's really what they were playing into. Is you give him like a cape or something like that. They were just trying to give him something to make him stand out and not just be a generic J-Bron running to the ring in black tights or something like that. That's the problem that people seem to think, like you should just be able to strip down and be as generic as possible. Like that doesn't work for most people. Most people, if you just put them in a Speedo and put them in the ring, they disappear. And that this is not world class in 1986 or some shit like that. You need a personality, dog. So whatever. Now the worst part of Raw was the Logan Paul stuff, and it was really, really, really bad. They had Logan Paul called Baron Corbin an asshole. Baron Corbin is still awesome. Now he's hit it big in Las Vegas, so now he's spending money. He's got food. He's got a presidential suite. He's doing quite well for himself in Las Vegas. I'm guessing by Friday he's going to be broke again. He's going to have 100 excuses to how he ended up having money on Twitter, taking pictures, talking about eating ribeye and all that kind of stuff. And now he's going to be broke again on Friday. I cannot wait. His shirt was clean too on a TikTok video, so I'm thrilled about that. I'm so happy for him. But anyway, Logan Paul called him an asshole, was hanging out with the Viking Raiders. The Viking Raiders were wearing weird helmets too, by the way. I mean, rain gear, right? So he comes out for the Moist TV segment with John Morrison, and the worst thing about all this crap is that it goes on far too long. Far too long. The crowd is absolutely eating up Logan Paul. They're eating him alive. And my favorite line in the whole show, I know you guys don't love me yet. And he just gets scorched earth heat. Just scorched earth heat. I mean, he can barely get a sentence out without getting ripped to shreds by this crowd. And John Morrison is just basically watching him flail in the wind. He probably got a kick out of that. Anyway, The Miz comes out there, tries to make a show about him. Miz gets into it with Logan Paul, and John Morrison gets into it with Miz, and then Logan Paul leaves, and Miz and Morrison argue. And then The Miz has to have a match with Xavier Woods. To me, that whole segment went on too long. It was entirely too long. Xavier Woods is now out there by himself. He has Scott Hall inspired gear. And how strange is it that Xavier Woods is now getting pushed as the King of the Ring tournament is being hinted at? And his whole thing is he didn't want to be WWE champion or Intercontinental champion. He wants to be the King of the Ring. And I'm thinking they're going to hoe him out and get him to the finals and beat him. That's what I think is going to happen. But I think that's why we see Xavier Woods on TV by himself. So The Miz has the match well in hand. Morrison distracts the ref, costs Miz the match. Miz ends up losing. John Morrison still being very playful. It's like, oh man, it was no big deal. My bad. And Miz is contemplating. You can see the turn coming. And after Miz and Morrison play with the water guns a little bit, Miz attacks him. Brutal attack, too. It was pretty prolonged. And because John Morrison has been such a douche, nobody decided to come and help him. So he just got beat up and left laying in the ring. Another time where they should have just said, hey, he's not going to be medically cleared for next week. And then let the Miz come out and explain why he did what he did to John Morrison. And let that be that. Let it sit for a little while. And they need to change the Miz's character too. The Miz needs a character change. And what I mean by that is he's been Hollywood Miz for like 5 years, maybe 6 or 7 now. He's been Hollywood Miz for a long time. It's time for him to branch out and do something different. I don't know what, but he needs to do something different. He needs to have a different approach. There's been enough of that, awesome. My hand goes up, your mouth goes shut. There's enough of that. We've done enough. Like, that Miz has been beaten to paste. We need to be able to be like, Miz, go out there and try something else. Mix the two gimmicks that you had together as far as being the original Miz, maybe, or something like that. And do something more than Hollywood Miz. Like, we've been doing this for a long time now. It's time for him to freshen up. John Morrison is not going to be the babyface of this feud, and he's going to finish it next week, which probably means they're going to be wrestling for the next month. Oh boy, I'm thrilled about that. Absolutely, absolutely thrilled. I love John Morrison, hell of a performer. I don't see why WWE's just never gotten behind him. The water puns, I wish we could stop doing that. Maybe he'll drop the America's Most Wanted shit, and but probably not. WWE just, sometimes they make people hold on to things, and it doesn't make any sense. Moist TV was real dumb. All right, so we got Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross asked Nikki Ash, asked Rhea Ripley to be her tag team partner against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler are partners, and Shayna was jealous that Nia Jax was teaming with Charlotte because she doesn't like Charlotte, and she also only wants to win with Nia Jax. Nia Jax, of course, apologized for not being focused and for tagging with somebody else and thinking that she could benefit from Charlotte being the Raw Women's Champion. Of course, she's not going to be. They go out there and they lose to Nikki Ash and Rhea Ripley. It's another oddball pairing, just like RK Bro, except for it was at this point in time 2 women who were not over. But it seems like this team is actually getting over. The crowd seemed to love Nikki and Rhea together. And they seem to complement one another, with Rhea being the bigger one, more ferocious, while Nikki is more tenacious, and she's, I guess they're going with high flyer for this character and being more technically sound, which is, I don't know. It's a great departure from the Twisted Sister version of Nikki Cross. Now, but that whole time I kept thinking about that, like, how awesome would it have been if it was NXT Nikki and Rhea Ripley as a tag team? Like, that would fucking rule. Like, that would be great. Like, that'd be like I was about to say a girl version of the Road Warriors, but like the girl version of Demolition or something like that. That would fucking rule. But it wouldn't be an eyeball friendship, because that's what WWE wants. WWE wants eyeball friendships. They don't want people who are similar being tag team partners. They need, to have unique personalities to bounce off each other. But they win the match, which is strange. And of course, they once again tease Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax breaking up. They've teased them breaking up for a long time. they have teased them breaking up for a long time. And I think the problem is they don't know who the hell the face would be. With Shayna Baszler, the mixed martial artist who bends people's arms and shit behind their back, are they going to be the face? Or is Nia Jax, the big show of the women's division, going to be the baby face? No idea. So that's probably why they haven't broken them up yet. So then you got, what's this? Reginald jumped off the ice cream truck. I liked the segment. It was fine, except for I didn't like that. It seemed like they filmed that vignettes at the same time as they filmed the other one, because Tozawa and Truth were wearing the same outfits. I thought it was going to be something like R-Truth is going to be the ice cream vendor or something like that and try to catch him. Like, that would be sweet. Like, I like the Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote nature of this thing. It reminds me a little bit of Crash Holly. A little bit. They need to bring in some of the other guys too. Like, where's Gulak and those guys? They should be involved in this stuff too. So Jinder Mahal wrestled Mansoor. Mansoor wanted to win the match his own way, while Ali is still on some by any means necessary kind of thing. Jinder Mahal just beat Mansoor, just beat him up, got disqualified. And then Ali was just kind of browbeat Mansoor a little bit, like, what happened? You know, what happened to your plan of doing things the right way? Are you ready to listen to me yet? Ali slowly but surely trying to corrupt Mansoor is cool. They're doing it, and they're doing it very subtly. They're not giving them a lot of time, but they're actually doing a lot of developing, especially in body language. As far as Ali was, you know, how he was selling that Mansoor wanted to be this good guy who does things the right way. Jinder Mahal needed something like this after that big loss he took, but now he seems to be directionless. Maybe we're just going to do something next week where he's going to turn his attention back to Drew McIntyre, but I've got a feeling he's just going to fight Mustafa Ali next week, because that's what WWE does, baby. So it is what it is. Elias now is wearing a white hat, but what's more important is that he has said that he's conquered entertainment. Now he wants to conquer wrestling and become a champion. It's like, wow, 4 years after your debut, you decided that being a wrestling champion is probably the smart thing to do, considering your job is wrestler. He had a white hat, which people say makes him look Amish. I say he's missing a corncob pipe. I don't know what the character is supposed to be. I'm very interested in what they're going to do here, though. Very interested, because it seems like Elias is coming for titles now, and you know what? That's a good thing. All right, so then we got Charlotte. Charlotte comes out, cuts a promo that is very directionless. Somebody probably should have interrupted after she said she was a 12-time champion and nobody's better than her. Somebody should have interrupted right then. This, of course, also went too long. We ended up with Alexa Bliss coming out, so Alexa Bliss is Charlotte's next opponent. I'm not thrilled about the Lily-Charlotte interaction we're going to have, but they're taking their top two women and putting them in the ring. And Alexa hasn't wrestled Charlotte in a long time. I don't know when the last time Alexa Bliss has wrestled Charlotte, if we're being honest. I really couldn't tell you. So the closing segment was Riddle and AJ Styles and Nick, and that was all good, because Riddle they wrestled recently, which I'm not thrilled about, but whatever. Omos having a microphone in his inside jacket pocket was awesome. Riddle getting Randy Orton a scooter with tassels is awesome. It wasn't as stupid as I thought it was going to be, but it was still pretty dumb. That segment was also kind of long, you know, and Riddle and AJ is, of course, a rematch of a match that took place a couple of weeks ago. But ultimately, Raw was, you know, one of the better Raws. There was a lot that took place for the first time. There was a lot that actually happened, as far as teams breaking up, new feuds are building. Bobby Lashley looks like a real champion, because he was in more than one segment. They didn't, you know, weave anything throughout the show other than Riddle and his celebration, but they need to put some more work in, but it wasn't bad. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Tell me what's worse than learning all that you led to believe was all horse crap. They distort so